All right.
So, hello and thank you for joining me tonight. I am your host, Nerdy Neo. This is another late night open mic, and I have a special guest tonight, Imp Black Belt, also known as the Imp Crusader. Wow, the Internet Crusader, who has a bit of an identity crisis, such as myself. So.
I prefer to call it an alter ego or psychopathy.
So, well, thank you for coming on and just talking game-relating stuff with me tonight.
I'm glad to be here. I'm happy to be here and just talk trash, food, games, whatever you want to call it.
And reaching out to me because, I was saying, I put out a tweet last week saying, I'll go solo. I don't have anybody lined up, but if anyone wants to come on, I'd be happy to. And you reached out to me and like, yeah, let's do it. And then just this afternoon, you're like, 10 o'clock Pacific. He's in Eastern. So 3 hours ahead of me. So it's only about 10:10 for me, but it's 1:10 for him already. So
yeah, it's kind of 1 a.m. for me, and I work tomorrow, but that's okay. I don't work until noon. I've got like 10 hours.
Well, normally we go to 2.5 hours, even though you say an hour and a half to 2 hours. So we'll try to keep it shorter so you're not having to stay up all hours of the night tonight. So, well, thank you. First thing I wanted to ask you about is the alter ego. So I kind of have a similar thing, as I am both Boba Fett and also Nerdy Neo. I've talked about that a few times. So what about the Internet Crusader and Imp Black Belt? How did those come to be? Where did those come from?
Well, the name Imp Black Belt has always been my screen name for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, I was super big into Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 4 and 6 were huge for me. I actually didn't own a Super Nintendo, but I did emulate the hell out of them.
Okay.
And I got turned on to those because, the Genesis didn't have the Genesis games that I played were not really big RPG games. They weren't like Phantasy Star or Shining Force, any of those, which they're great games. I do enjoy them, but the Final Fantasy games were just kind of my bag when it came to RPGs. Okay. And I always remember just laughing a little bit because, well, I am a black belt in Taekwondo. I'm a first degree martial arts. And the imp status from Final Fantasy VI just stood out to me. So, hey, imp black belt, and it just worked. The Internet Crusader, on the other hand, came about sometime after I got out of the military, and I was trolling around on the internet talking with friends, and I got this really stupid idea. What up, DJ?
Hey, what's up, DJ? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Stupid idea to do a suit of Warcraft armor that was just bright yellow with cherry red highlights, covered from head to toe in internet memes. And he's seen better days, but you can see he's still quite dapper.
That's the word beforehand I was looking for, because I was going to ask you about who's this dapper gentleman you have next to you.
Oh yeah, he is the alter ego. He's nobody cared about me until I put on the mask. So
you have the full armor set then? You could wear it to like a con?
I had it, and I did wear it to a convention, but it was not really well designed, and it basically tore itself apart after one day of wearing it. It was about 60 pounds of plaster and Bondo on my shoulders.
That's
not easy. That is a lot, especially in the middle of summer. Walking around Pittsburgh in the middle of summer is no joke. Wearing 60 pounds of really hot stuff, even when you do have a lot of time in the in an air-conditioned building, it's just falling apart all over the place. It was fun. I still have the helmet. I still have the battle standard somewhere.
That sounds just exhausting. Just to hear about it. Just wearing it would wear you out, right?
I do still have the morph suits, so I do have the morph suit to go underneath it. But I would probably end up getting a new suit that's a bit more like Master Chief, like segmented armor style that like locks into place over body pieces. That would be the better way of doing it. And also, I have choice words for Games Workshop, but let's just say I'm not a fan. So I would definitely want to avoid actually going Games Workshop Space Marine style armor again.
Okay. What's up, Angry Canadian? You're not very late because I had a bit of a blunder when we started, so we started kind of late. We've only been going for a few minutes, so welcome. So Games Workshop is that so I don't really know almost anything about Warhammer. Is that one of the developers of Warhammer games, or is that someone who does like cosplay armor type of stuff?
Games Workshop is the publisher that created the original board game for Warhammer and Warhammer 40K. They've done quite a bit of other stuff as well, but that's their bread and butter. They're the publisher that controls the IP for all the stuff, and it's generally blood for the blood god. It is generally a big name thing for a lot of people. Like, it's such a big thing. They are very controlling about how all this stuff is depicted, and they're the ones that control licensing out the IP to the developers that make all the video games for it as well. But they've gotten into a lot of tiffs with their fan base and other developers and stuff that do work for them. They've gotten to the point kind of where people are really not happy with them. They're a little upset with the way they've been handling things, and I'm just not. I don't really want to associate with them anymore.
Okay.
As fun as it is, no thanks.
Interesting. Okay, because not knowing anything about Warhammer, I've gotten the notion, I guess, and this could be completely wrong, but given how a lot of nerd franchises have been utterly destroyed in recent years, mutilated and desecrated.
Yeah.
I have the notion that Warhammer might be like the last bastion of unruined IP. Is that incorrect?
Well, and
then
that's an interesting way to look at it. It's not so much that the IP itself has been ruined. It's that the fan base has kind of been shunned by Games Workshop themselves. Okay. Games Workshop has done some really weird stuff with the IP. They've reiterated on the content multiple times, and there are a lot of fans that are big, diehard Warhammer fans and Warhammer 40K fans that are looking at like, why? It's like they look at it and they're trying to reason these things out and trying to do weird stuff with it. And the fans are just sitting there like, you don't have to do that. That's stupid. Stop being stupid. But the biggest part of it is that Games Workshop has actually taken active steps against their fan-based content creators. And that's kind of where things start getting
like Nintendo.
Really. Yeah, I mean, well, it's worse than Nintendo because Nintendo takes action against content creators that are like trying to make things and profit off of them, like fan base mods and other stuff. AM2R was one of them, but Games Workshop has just actively tried to just stifle fan-made content entirely, and in some cases. And a lot of fans are just not having it. They're just walking away from it and making their own content in a similar fashion.
Hey, I totally missed this. What's up, Jock Nerdy? Good to see you here tonight. He's a buddy. I've met him in real life. He lives not far from me. So.
Oh, that's neat. That's always nice to have local friends. Those are the best.
So,
if anyone out there is local to South Carolina or the surrounding states, hit me up.
So let's see here. Oh yeah, because I know that there are like the Warhammer. So what's the difference between Warhammer and Warhammer 40K? Those are two different things.
Warhammer 40K is set 40,000 years in the future.
Okay. That's
in layman's terms, that's really about it. You could break down significant differences. There's serious changes in the races, like elves, dwarves, Skaven, all this and other stuff. Warhammer 40K has the Imperium of Man, the Necrons, the all these other races, the Eldar and the Dark Eldar. They have all these other groups, the Orcs, whatever you can talk about them. But the reality is, like, the big difference in layman's terms is that Warhammer 40K is set 40,000 years in the future, in the 41st millennium.
That is a huge time gap. So okay, because I know that there are tons of like the just the IP in general is across so many different mediums. I know
they've got books. They've got.
I'm sure they probably have comics. I would assume. I know there's.
I mean, short form content, long form content, anything you can think of. It was so big, it spans across all kinds of stuff. And it started as a little tabletop miniature.
Okay, so it started as the tabletop game.
It's hard to get into because there's so much. You just if you're interested in it, just pick one thing and start there and branch out. That's all I can say. But if you try to get into the tabletop game, be aware it costs quite a bit of money
as well,
because you're going to be buying figurines, and you can't just buy like one figurine and say this counts for this. You need the physical figurines on the table, and you're in general you're going to want to paint them too.
Yeah, that does not sound fun to me. But
some people find it relaxing.
I know it's huge.
My roommate right now, he's super big into Gundams and assembling Gundams, like with the super tiny stickers that are just like this big, and I'm just like I don't have, my hands like how's that meme go and how's that gag go in Blazing Saddles? Most steady hand in the West. Ah, I see. That's my firing hand.
I don't know that I've seen that meme.
Oh, you need to see that movie. Blazing Saddles is so fantastic. Yeah,
I've never actually seen. I've seen lots of memes from the movie, but yeah, I've never actually seen the movie. But that meme in particular, I don't think I've seen that one. But yeah, whereas go ahead.
Yeah, well, that one's less of a meme, more of just like one of the iconic moments. Genuinely, if you get the chance, just go 100% watch the movie. It is one of my top 10s.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. It's like their top favorite comedies.
Paul remembers that. Blazing Saddles is great. I agree.
So, anyways, where I was going with that is like with Disney after they acquired Star Wars, they at least the video game side of things, they barely did. They've done almost nothing with it. I mean, the only thing we've gotten here, Disney's owned Star Wars for 11 years now, and we got Battlefront 1, Battlefront 2, Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, and Squadrons. I don't think we've gotten any other Star Wars games than that.
And you know what's funny is that Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 by EA have a weaker fan base than the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, which was published like a decade more than 2 decades ago. It was more than 1 decade.
I'm pretty sure they came out in 2004 and 2005. And there are stuff that are in those games that they never brought forward into the new ones, and it's still stuff that people are like, I liked it because it had this stuff, and they never brought it forward, and just disappointed people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 11 years, we've gotten 5 games from Disney Star Wars. That same gap of time from like 2000 to 2011 was a crap load of games, and some of the best Star Wars games ever. Comes up almost every other stream. My opinion, Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy are the best Star Wars games. They are my favorite. But
there's genuinely fantastic gems. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm actually like, I haven't played it, but I have friends that have, and Jedi Survivor, Jedi Outcast are highly regarded, right? And those are the ones I'm thinking of, right? The recent
one is Fallen Order, was the one from 2 years ago, and Jedi Survivor was the one that just came out a few months ago.
Yeah, not bad, but
not bad.
I have a couple coworkers that are big fans. They love them. They love those games. They think they're fantastic. But I mean, I'm a fan of Souls games, and yeah, Force Unleashed was great, Keo. That is a true one.
I enjoyed them, but I think that they're overrated. Like, I see posts a lot, like on Twitter and stuff. It's like, which one of these would you want to be made canon? And a lot of the people are like, Force Unleashed. It's like, Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy are infinitely better than Force Unleashed, in my opinion. Not that Force Unleashed was a bad game. I did enjoy them, but I don't think they were on
Force
the same
Unleashed was like a roller coaster ride. It was just fun. That's all. Like I don't care about it being canon. I think it's just fun. That's all.
KOTOR is gets mentioned on pretty much every one of my streams because great game. And Republic Commando is another fan favorite. I've never finished it. I need to go back and play through it in its entirety, but I know it was well regarded.
What is that one on? I have KOTOR 1 and 2. I've beaten KOTOR 1, but what is
so
Republic
KOTOR 1
Commando?
and 2 and Republic Commando were all on original Xbox, and
I missed that one.
I think they I'm pretty sure they were also on PlayStation 2. But anyway, so where I was going with that is that, in that the 2000s, Lucasfilm basically licensed out the Star Wars name to tons of different developers to kind of do all of this great stuff with it, with the IP, and make all sorts of different games. You got your first person shooters, you got your action games, you got your racers, you got kart racers, you got vehicle destruction, you got your Lego games, just like tons of games. And then Disney.
Well, and the Lego games were just all over the place, just absolutely crazy, and it was great. People loved it for very good reason. They're just genuinely fun, more kid-friendly versions of the games that just didn't take themselves seriously. And I love that about games. When you have games that just don't take themselves too seriously, that's something I'm having trouble with the more modern day AAA stuff. It's just they take themselves a little too seriously. They try for this really big AAA cinematic experience, and I'm like, just give me something a little bit more arcadey and silly and fun. That's why I'm way more into Nintendo than anything that Xbox and Sony is doing right now. Just what it is.
But yeah, so they licensed it out, and it was like the golden age of Star Wars games, and then Disney took over, and they're like, no one else can make it but us, until they finally let Respawn do Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. That comes to an end sometime soon, because I know that it might already be up, because I know the first non-EA Star Wars game since Disney bought Star Wars is the one from Ubisoft, which has been making the rounds lately, Outlaws. So hopefully they'll start licensing it out to more developers, and we can actually get a wide variety of Star Wars games again. And that's where I was going, is that it seems like that's kind of what Warhammer has been doing, because there's all sorts of different Warhammer games, right?
Oh yeah, there's a ton. And there's a bunch of really truly wonderful ones, but they've been hit or miss a little bit as well, because for every Warhammer 40K Space Marine that you get, you also have a couple of really weird misses.
Is Space Marine, because I remember seeing one, I think it was E3 last year, and it looked really cool and really caught my interest. It looked like it was like a Gears of War in Warhammer. Is that Space Marine?
Yeah, I think so. It's a little slower paced combat than something like Devil May Cry, but you have some really crazy moves you can do, and you're walking around the battlefield slashing and shooting orcs like crazy, right?
It's a third person shooter.
Yes, it's a third person hack and slash shooter.
Yeah, I think it was that one.
It really is in a way a lot like God of War. It's that kind of slow paced combat more compared to it's more combo based. You do have the abilities, you charge up your meter, and you have special attacks and stuff, but you do have all this big Warhammer Space Marine. It's you against a legion of orcs, and you just have to slash your way through with a chainsword.
Yeah, the first time I ever saw that chainsword, I'm like, that is pretty dope. Let's see here. Did Space Marine come out?
Oh, Republic Commando is available on PC and Switch.
Yeah. So, hello, Winter Prince. I don't think I've seen you before.
That's one of mine.
Your buddies.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. And Yeah, yeah. A lot of the the 2000s Star Wars games have made a re-release on Switch lately and PlayStation, because I know like Jedi Outcast and I think Academy also got released like last year, and that was making the rounds too. But yeah, Paul's got it right. Double A games have more passion than triple A's because you know, a lot of.
And he also says indie games as well. My current game of the year is an indie game. I'll talk about it all day long.
Indies definitely.
I'm a big fan of Pizza Tower. As soon as it dropped in January, I have been all over it, and the soundtrack for it is one of the best game soundtracks I heard in years.
I've heard about this game a couple times. You know what? I'm just, now that you mention it, I think I've seen a clip of it. Are you running around and you look kind of like a French or Italian chef?
Yeah, you are. You are a fat, middle-aged Italian pizza chef named Peppino Spaghetti, and you are just running around, dashing and bashing your head into everything possible. The entire game is just ridiculous. The art style is the epitome of over 9,000 hours in MS Paint, even though all of the animations are super smooth and they've got all kinds of like real tight custom animations. It just feels good. And the music is an absolute banger.
Okay. Wait, you're saying that they did the art in Paint?
It's all hand-drawn pixel art. But I mean, it oozes with that real characteristic over 9,000 hours in MS Paint meme style, and it's just great.
Okay, not that necessarily.
It's a beautiful game. They are also the best example I could ever find of how to do a boss rush properly.
Okay, I'm gonna.
And I don't want to spoil it for people that actually want to play the game.
I'm sharing it here so you can kind of see it.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It was just okay. That was a fail. It was like a 30-second clip of the.
Yeah.
But that's so you can see the art style. So yeah, I've been hearing lots of good things about that game. It's cool to hear such high praise from someone in person, because I don't think I've heard anyone like I know talk about it. I've just heard it mentioned on like.
No, I don't want to spoil anything because the game is great, and it's not actually like it's not story heavy, but there's a few implied and insinuated things. Like it's a little bit more environmental, but more than anything, it's just super arcadey. It's very Wario Land.
Okay.
It is based heavily on Wario Land 4. If you just R-dash all over the place and you're just running into everything. And the game is chaotic and psychotic and glorious. It's just hilarious.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, that's probably what I was thinking kind of in the back of my mind, but I didn't realize it until you said it. It definitely has that Wario Land vibe to it.
Yes, I did, Paul. I did gift it to them so they would play it on stream. And yes, I am obsessed with it. But if you heard the soundtrack and saw how it broke the internet for 2 months, like Rashad EB is still making remixes of the soundtrack. Even in August, he just released a new
DJ Access. Is that who you're talking about?
No. He's a metal artist who does remixes of songs named Rashad EB. I could link it in chat actually. He's another fantastic video game remix artist. Alongside like DJ and Paul, fantastic music by the way. 100%. I love the stuff. Fantastic music all the way. Okay. I like diversifying with more than 2 artists.
So yeah, I'm all I do a lot of indie stuff as well. Like I play a ton of different stuff, and I don't play a lot of AAA stuff, and I definitely don't play anything new. I always wait till I can get it like on super deep discount. So
yeah, even if I'm gonna buy it at the new price, I'm gonna wait a week, 2 weeks, maybe. The worst 3 days. The last game that I pre-ordered was Inscription. It was an indie.
Okay.
Yeah, you've heard of it, maybe?
Yeah, someone mentioned it a few streams ago. I don't remember who it was, but yeah, it might have been Melee K that had mentioned it.
Yeah, it's a good one too. Yeah, that one is, if you're a fan of The Only Artist Ever. Yeah, okay. All right. I look forward to the next one you guys do together. Inscription, for people that don't know it, it is by the same guy that did Pony Island and The Hex. And he's super big into doing ARGs with his stuff. So he keeps little hidden clues programmed into his game that you have to actually find other clues on websites, and even getting people, if you get enough people, you can get people to find clues out in real world stuff to actually find more little tricks and hints and things that you can do in the game to unlock more lore. And then you even go back to another game that he made to find more details. It's this super fun, big process that really gets an entire community together to hunt things down.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
But the game in itself is super fun. It's very, very dark and environmental, and it's just atmospheric. And it made a lot of twists that I didn't expect. I pre-ordered that one, and the last one before that I pre-ordered was Duke Nukem Forever. And you can probably imagine why there's such a big gap.
Did you mention that in stream? Because I remember when we were on one of my streams, they're talking about pre-ordered games, and someone said last game I pre-ordered was Duke Nukem Forever for obvious reasons. It was probably you.
Yeah.
I was like,
no, I guarantee you that was me.
That makes sense given how much of a disaster that game was.
Yeah. Well, and that game made a lot of sins, but I could forgive those sins if it weren't for the load times. If it weren't for the ridiculous number of constant load times, I could forgive the bad pacing. I could forgive the terrible writing. I could forgive the lack of weapons, how bad the enemies feel, and the lackluster bosses. I could forgive all of that. If it weren't for the load times,
the worst thing
that is the number one. You take away the load times and put in like quick loads in through almost all the game. Even if you're just power loading the whole level, give me quick loads between deaths, and I'll be fine. I could play that game.
That's fine. What did you play it on?
360.
Okay. It is backwards compatible, which means you could play it on a Series X, which would probably run it better. Not that, there aren't.
That might require me actually buying an Xbone or a Series S or X.
Yeah, it's like there's plenty of other games that your time would be more well spent.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Duke Nukem Forever is not a bad game per se. It's not a good Duke Nukem game. I say that about, and this is my controversial opinion for the day. I say that about the Doom remakes. Doom 2016 was a fantastic game. It was a great game, not Doom.
Okay.
It is not designed the same way that Doom was. It's an incredibly well-designed, tight, and competent first-person shooter that's wearing a Doom skin.
Okay.
And I say that pointing primarily at the glory kills. They designed the entire game around the glory kill system, which you have to when you do that, you have to
DJ agrees.
Yeah. All right. Someone's got some sense. So the whole idea is you create these walls of health. Even the low level enemies, they just soak up bullets. And the entire point of it is that it's not Doom, because Doom was very quick run and gun. This game very much focuses on getting in with the rip and tear. And you have to ultimately create walls of health, giant walls of meat that soak up bullets like crazy. The devs even went so far as to add in, Doom 2016 plays more like Serious Sam with demons. That's a pretty good way of putting it. You just add in glory kills, and some of the enemies just have so much health. The devs even talked about what they call the Doom dance, where you go back and forth between different weapons. You pull out your shotgun, then you pull out your assault rifle, then you got your other weapon, and you have to cycle through them so quickly with limited ammunition. And then in order to keep your health up, you got all your dashes and your tools, you got your flamethrower, you got your grenades, you got your everything else, and you're just cycling through everything so quickly that it's just absolute chaos all the time. And the enemies just don't die. And if you try to force them to die without the glory kills, they reward you with nothing. So you can't even force a playstyle on it.
The low ammo capacity in Doom Eternal was my biggest gripe early on until I kind of got used to it. But yeah, I can see where you come from. I didn't play. So Doom 2016 was the first Doom game I played. So I played Doom and then I went back and played the originals. So,
like I said, it's still a very competent game. It's a great game, 100%. I just don't see it as Doom. It's just a very good first-person shooter.
Yeah, it makes sense. But we could probably argue with Melee James because on a very similar topic where he says Hyrule Warriors is a Zelda game.
Yeah. Yes.
So what DJ Axis says, Doom 3 isn't a good Doom game either. Yeah. Yeah, Doom 3 I think got a pretty bad rap because they basically took it in like a survival horror direction, but it was a pretty decent game on its own. But yeah, it wasn't.
Wait, you mean devs actually try to make survival horror games these days? I thought people were trying to take survival horror games and stop making them survival horror games. Look at Resident Evil 6.
Yeah, it's like basically an action game. Yeah, and Kenny's like, don't get me started on the Hyrule Warriors crap again. Yeah, me too. He brought it up on Side Trollers the other day again too. Okay. Oh yeah, one thing I was gonna mention a few minutes ago is with the whole ARG thing. Like the concept of ARG is really cool. I've never like done anything ARG related, but it definitely seems like that would be a lot of fun if you had the ability to go and like travel around to wherever these hints are hidden.
And part of that is you don't have to necessarily be the one that travels around. You just have to if you have a large enough community, then you do it. If you're doing a one-man ARG, well, good luck, because you're going to be spending a lot of time looking in stuff. Those are communities of like hundreds or even thousands of people. Dead Space 3, I agree.
Yeah, same. Dead Space, from what I hear, is not a Dead Space game. Tim Talk. Hey, what's up? Tim Talk, quoting Undercover Boss. That's one of the best videos ever. You ever seen that Undercover Boss with Kylo Ren? From SNL?
Yeah.
My name's Matt. I'm a radar technician. So, hey, I'm Kylo Ren. Yeah, we know.
Yeah,
I knew since hi, I'm Matt. That's one of the greatest things ever. But hey, Tim, thanks for joining us tonight. Okay, so I'm already at 40 minutes. So I was going to ask you, because I'm a big Xbox guy. I was a Nintendo kid growing up, so I've never had a Sega console. I never had a PlayStation. Have you had? It sounds like you were a Super Nintendo kid as well, or had?
Nope, I was a Genesis kid. But I just loved. I had so many friends on both sides of the aisles, and I was also a GameCube kid. I had a Genesis, then a 64, then a GameCube. Oh, hold on.
Okay, because you were talking about Final Fantasy, so I figured you were a SNES guy, but you didn't actually have a SNES.
If the camera will actually focus, this is just what I have on hand from my streaming.
Yeah, it's too blurry. I can't make out any. Oh, there we go.
Let's see.
A bunch of Sonics.
Sonic.
Mario Kart.
One of these is Sonic. This is actually like 12 Sonic games. This one's actually like 8 Sonic games. And I mean, I have
probably like that because you're a Genesis kid, right?
Yeah, I like Sonic. Don't get me wrong. I think Mario is great, and some of the Mario games are fantastic, but Mario is a little bit more boring because it's just more slower paced. No offense to people that enjoy it. Sonic is just a completely different type of platformer. I'm a huge Sonic fan. On my YouTube channel, I'm actually running a Sonic retrospective. I've been doing it for a few months now, and I've played through all the Genesis games, including Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine and Sonic Spinball, which I still play pretty frequently. For the GameCube, I've played through all the games on the Sonic Gems collection, which is Sonic CD, Sonic R, Sonic the Fighters, and a few of the Game Gear games. The Sonic Mega Collection I just have here for moral support because I've already played most of the stuff that's on it already. I've got Sonic Riders, Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut. I've beaten, not 100%. I've just beaten the story. Sonic Adventure 2, I put in 60 hours as a kid, and I went back and rebeat the story on stream, and I'm gonna go 100% the rest of it eventually.
Nice.
I've got 145 out of the 180 emblems to get the Green Hill Zone special stage. Okay. And then I'm still going from here. I'm currently playing through Sonic Mania and Sonic Generations on Steam, and then I've got my Wii U with a whole bunch of the Wii Sonic games. Dark Knight, Secret Rings, Unleashed, and Colors.
I've heard of that last one. Man, there's so many Sonic games I've never even heard of.
And there's a few that I can't get either. I will eventually have to emulate it unless I can magically find a 32X and a copy of Knuckles Chaotix. That is gonna be an expensive one, sir.
So, is it safe to say that Sonic is your favorite franchise?
It's getting up there, yeah. It's probably one of my favorites. It's hard to say because I've sunk so many hours into Smash Brothers. Childhood memories. I had a friend in high school that was trying to go pro and was trying to use me as his punching bag.
Oh, you mentioned that in Discord. I remember you saying that. So, Tim, yes, that would be awesome. I'd love to talk about the Matrix. So, shoot me up on Twitter, X, or Discord. We'll make that happen.
That would sound fun.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Matrix Reloaded. I've seen the original 3, but the original 3 were fantastic.
Because Matrix Reloaded is the second one, then Revolutions was the third one. Resurrections was the fourth one.
Resurrection, that's the one. Yeah, no,
that one doesn't exist.
Yeah. What a shame, huh?
So I was a Nintendo kid. I played a couple of Sonic games over at my buddy's house who had a Genesis. I never had one, so I don't have. I not that I do dislike Sonic or anything, but I don't have the childhood.
Nothing wrong with it. That's just there's key moments in everybody's life that determine the kind of person they will grow up to be, and that's one of them. Are you a Genesis kid or a Nintendo kid?
Yeah. So my first game ever was Super Mario World because it came with the Super Nintendo when I got it for Christmas. But I'm not a huge Mario fan either. I think most Mario games are overrated. But my thing is Mega Man. I freaking love Mega Man.
Mega Man is fantastic. I have very fond memories of Mega Man X, and I actually have. I probably don't have it here, but I have a copy of Mega Man X Command Mission for the GameCube. And it is super fun. It is a very fun one.
The first actual stream on my channel was me and DJ Axis and Geno95 talking about Mega Man for 2 hours. And
I was there for a small part of that. I think I saw that. Yeah, no, that was a good one.
Yeah, I think it was Gino was talking about Command Mission because I didn't know anything about it, and I don't think I would enjoy it given that's a turn-based RPG, and I'm not a fan of turn-based RPGs. But he's been, I know he streamed a little bit of it on his channel. But yeah, Mega Man X, particularly X1, 2, and 3, because those are the ones on Super Nintendo. Those are my favorite Super Nintendo games. Those
are classic. 100%. Like, I'm a big fan of all the big classics, right? The Mega Man X series, Super Metroid, Mario Kart, Mario Worlds, Star Fox, you like all the big classics, right? Everyone should, all the stuff that everyone should play. And then a few others out there, like I am a particular big fan of the Soul Blazer trilogy. Those are fantastic.
Heard of that one.
Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, and Terranigma. Terranigma never saw a US release, but if you can get your hands on the ROM, you can patch it for the NTSC region. They're action RPGs. They're not turn-based, but
okay.
In particular, Illusion of Gaia was probably my favorite, but Terranigma is probably the best designed. It's got a very good story, and the action sequences were absolutely fantastic. I just have a soft spot for Illusion of Gaia.
Okay. Yeah,
if you get a chance, I would recommend them.
Okay, yeah, it's basically speaking another language. I've never even heard of these games before. Oh, you got a couple of Soul Blazer fans in the chat.
Yeah, you talking my language.
So.
The Soul Blazer trilogy is great. It's a shame that they never got it. I have an SNES Mini that's got 2 of those on it. I'll just have to like mod it to add the other one in.
Okay. Yeah, I know they've released a bunch of those mini consoles, but it's not like they have. You would think that they would add like basically all the games on the console, since you could easily fit them all on like not even a very large memory card because of how small the file sizes are.
They don't have the rights to all of them. That's the problem. You would have to talk to Square Enix to add anything that they would have had to talk to Square Enix to get Final Fantasy 2, 4, or 3 and 6. And then you're talking about like 5, you're talking about Secret of Mana, Secret of Evermore even. Yes, I do. I will get you a link to that right now, actually.
So yeah, I'll also put it in the stream notes as well. Anytime I have somebody on, I link their channel if they have one in the notes. But yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because I meant to ask you about it earlier when you were talking about Final Fantasy, because I know there's some sort of really weird confusion on the numbering system between US and Japan. Is that so?
Yes. Yeah, there is. Final Fantasy 1 was the only NES original Nintendo Famicom game that was released in the US. 2 and 3 were NES games that only saw Japanese releases originally. 4 was the first Super Nintendo release. 5 was not released, and 6 was then released for the Super Nintendo eventually. To avoid numbering issues and confusion, Final Fantasy 4 and 6 became 2 and 3
in the US,
and then Final Fantasy 7,
because
in the US,
other ones
and then Final Fantasy 7 rolled out. Yeah, none of the others saw a release until people were super confused about, wait a minute, what do you mean Final Fantasy 7? The last one that was out was 3, and it's just like that Karen thinking math numbers.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
It's like,
yeah, because I've had a few people try to explain it to me before, because they were big fans, and I was only kind of like half listening. So it's because the ones that are missing were because they weren't released in the US, but they were in Japan.
Yeah, and then eventually Square Enix just accepted that people wanted to see them and started re-releasing them. Final Fantasy 4 and 6 really received GBA ports, the advanced ones. I have
Q-thon?
I actually have Final Fantasy 6 Advance. I'm trying to get my hands on 4 and 5 Advance, because there's a store like an hour away from me, a retro store that has a complete in-box copy of 5 Advance for about $100. Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah. Retro gaming is a joke. The market is screwed because of collectors.
Yeah, you could get Mark the Cyborg, my co-host on Party Chat, started on especially with like Nintendo and like not allowing you to play their older games on new hardware. It's like the only way to do it is either find some overpriced old piece of hardware somewhere, or mod it, or emulate it.
I actually have a Game Boy player for my GameCube, actually.
Yeah, it pisses all off as gamers. It's like there's the meme, it's always morally correct to pirate Nintendo games for that very reason. Yes, the Game Boy player.
Yeah, when it becomes a moral imperative to pirate.
Yeah. So the Game Boy player, that's the one for the GameCube, right? Yeah.
Yes, it is. I paid like $100 for it.
I had that as well. I don't know, whatever. I probably, because I traded in my GameCube for a Wii, because it was backwards compatible, so I didn't need the GameCube anymore. So I'm pretty sure the Game Boy player went with it, because what am I going to do with the player without an actual GameCube?
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I feel that, but what a shame. Trust me. Like I made the decision very early to never trade in my games. I've only traded in a very select few. I traded in my Game Boy games before I got the Game Boy Player, and I traded in a gifted copy of Mega Man 4 for the NES because I'm never getting an NES. I'm probably never getting an actual Super Nintendo either because what am I gonna? I mean, I've got a Super Nintendo Mini, and I don't have space on my shelves for my thing. I don't have enough plugins for a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I haven't traded a lot of stuff. Definitely haven't traded very many games, but yeah, I have traded some consoles to upgrade to like newer ones when they're backwards compatible. But if it's not backwards compatible, then I wouldn't trade it in. So,
yeah.
So
it's a little bit ridiculous. The market's getting very expensive. The only reason that I can afford it and like I can afford this house is because I've got a good job.
Canadian says the same thing.
The culinary industry is not friendly. You're not getting very far in the culinary industry unless you have connections. I got very lucky that my parents had connections, and I managed to luck out and get a job in a country club. They pay in rural South Carolina. This country club pays $12 an hour with benefits to their dishwashers. Starting, and we can't find people because it's so hard to find people that want to work in the culinary industry.
Yeah, Angry Canadian is actually in Japan, and he says the market's going up there too, which I keep forgetting. I always think that you're in Canada, given that you're Angry Canadian, but no, you're in Japan.
Oh no.
But Keathon, I hope I'm saying that right. And thank you for joining us tonight. I have not seen you here before, so
another one of mine. Hi,
thanks for joining us. But yeah, the thing that plugged into the N64 controller to play, you couldn't actually, at least if you're talking about what I think you're talking about, there was a thing that plugged into the bottom of the N64 controller. You could put Game Boy games in. That was called the transfer pack. I don't think that actually allowed you to actually play games. The only thing I knew is it linked with certain N64 games to unlock stuff within them.
Like Pokemon Stadium.
That could have been one of them. I've never been into Pokemon, so I don't know. What I had it for is because the Perfect Dark Game Boy Color game unlocks stuff in the N64 Perfect Dark game.
Really? I didn't know that one. I do know the transfer pack. It had specific carve outs for Pokemon Stadium. I've got one of the Pokemon Stadium games.
Oh, that was and that's also the reason why I got a Game Boy camera back in the day, is because you were supposed to be able to use the Game Boy camera to take a picture of yourself and then use the transfer pack to put your face on a character in multiplayer in Perfect Dark on N64. And they scrapped that feature at the last minute before the game came out. So I got the Game Boy Color or the Game Boy camera for essentially no reason. Although it did have some fun games on it.
I will say, here's a fun one for you. There's a streamer. I'll have to ask how it happens. One of my favorite streamers, Vinny Vinesauce. He doesn't need any help with promotion. He occasionally streams with using a Game Boy camera as his face cam. It's ridiculous, and yeah, it is as exactly low poly as you think it is.
Yeah, it's like
it's great.
8-bit cameras, but it's like how do you stream to today's internet on a Game Boy camera? I'd be curious on the setup, on the technical side of things. I'll put the link to his channel.
I linked it in chat a couple times, but yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, there it is. But I'll put it in the stream notes as well. Yeah.
No, I love mini stuff.
Paul's one of the same thing. How do you do that?
How do I do that? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he did it. There's magic trickery, all kinds of whatever you want to think. If it is a piece of tech that can connect to a computer in some way, you can make it work. That is all that I can tell you.
Pretty much.
But I very similar to Vinny, partially inspired. I don't use face cams, webcams. I am, for what should be obvious reasons, I have eczema that runs in my family. My mother has rosacea. My father's got atopic dermatitis. I've got eczema. It just runs in the family. No one wants to see my ugly mug.
Oh, it's not that bad.
So it's a personal choice. So links don't show up in chat. Oh, you'll have to post it. That's fine.
Oh, you know what? Did you?
But beyond that, if the content speaks for itself, why do I need a webcam? But I'm small enough and starting out. I've kind of come to the realization that, you fostering some sense of community, fostering some sense. It's not just you watching a game; it's you being friends with people and having a presence. This webcam just sucks.
Yeah, it has trouble. It has trouble staying in focus. That's for sure.
Yeah. And like I said before, I've got a full-time job. I work 50, 60 hours a week right now. I don't need subscribers on Twitch. I don't need money. I appreciate any support people want to give. If you want to give a like, a subscribe, anything like that, more power to you. If you like the content. If you don't like the content, I understand, and I'm not going to push it. More power to you. I'm here to have fun, and hopefully I can drag some people kicking and screaming with me.
So I put the link in the chat. It gave me a little check mark, so I think it should show up for you guys. So if you want to go check out,
it shows up on mine.
There you go. And like I said, I'll also put that in the stream description notes, whatever, at the end. So,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So yeah, you were so
I can't be that bad, Keo.
I
appreciate you. Trust me. It's we are our own worst enemy. That's the best piece of advice I can give you. When you start feeling better about yourself and start thinking a little less about how bad you are in one form or another, it gets better. It gets better. 100%. Is you just have to kind of smile and find the goodness in yourself. That's the best I can. The best advice I can give you. You got to be a little bit more confident, and I struggle with confidence. Also, part of why I don't like using a webcam.
Well, it definitely doesn't seem like it, so you hide it well.
I appreciate that. Well, also, like I said, I'm big into food. Anyone ever wants to talk food or recipes, I work at a country club. I made this delicious bolognese from scratch. I made marinara from scratch, and I turned it into bolognese with ground beef and Italian sausage. Anyone wants advice on stuff like that, recipes, hit me up. Even with my relatively limited experience, I'm more than willing to offer advice and give ideas for recipes.
Yeah, that's definitely not me. I know how to use a microwave, and I kind of know how to use the oven. I saw you mention in Discord earlier before the stream, you mentioned that what you just made. I didn't even know how that word was pronounced until now. It's bolognese? I thought it was like
it's bolognese. It's from the Italian region, Bologna. Bolognese is a kind of, traditionally it's a red sauce, like a red meat sauce.
Sounds good.
And I make mine super fancy because I can. I start with like traditionally it's a mirepoix. I can type it out in chat.
That is either.
A mirepoix is a traditional French cooking term for a trinity. You start with like 2 parts onion, 1 part carrot, 1 part celery, and add as much garlic as you like. And that is the basis for a lot of French soups and stews and all over the place. It is traditional, like, basics French cooking.
Okay.
And it really is. It's that simple. You just 2 parts onion, 1 part celery, 1 part carrot, and as much garlic as you like. And I take that with some oil in a big old pot and simmer that down until I get a little bit of color and just develop a little bit of color, a little bit of flavor. And then I add red wine and balsamic vinegar. and simmer that down until all the alcohol cooks out of the red wine. And then I just add like 3 giant cans of tomatoes.
Yeah, that just reminded me of like a funny like kitchen sign I saw
Yeah.
one time. It said, I like to cook with wine.
Yeah.
I even put it in the food sometimes.
That's right. I like to cook with wine, red wine, white wine, bourbon, rum. I like to. This is what I've been drinking, by the way. If the camera actually focuses, this is a Japanese whiskey, Suntory Japanese
Tori
whiskey.
Hanzo?
There's the focus. There it goes.
Whiskey.
I'm trying not to drink anymore because where's my cooking channel? Hopefully it'll also be the same channel. On the channel, I've actually got a playlist of cocktail intermissions. Is a short series that we're hopefully going to be expanding soon with mixed drinks and cocktails. And the other friend of mine is a coworker of mine. He is a bartender at the same country club that I work at, and he makes fantastic drinks. As I am not a bartender myself, but I know my flavor profiles, and there's a few that in there that'll surprise you. If you like screwdrivers, orange juice and vodka, add a little splash of carrot juice to it. Just go to the organic section and buy a small bottle of 100% carrot juice and add a small splash of that to your screwdriver. It'll change your life, I promise.
I haven't had one of those in a very long time, but if I ever do again, I'll see if I can do that.
You will never find a bar that keeps carrot juice behind the counter.
Yeah,
I'm trying
I would think that would.
I'm trying to change
be
that.
Something that would be kind of difficult to find, at least in a bar setting. Yeah, so looks like you got. Just looking at your channel here, you got some streaming of some games. Looks like a lot of Sonic related stuff, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I started that Sonic retrospective to do a in celebration of Sonic Superstars. I intend to get that probably shortly after it comes out, but between that and a bunch of the other stuff, as you would be surprised at some of the great games, the great little gems that are out there. One of my favorites that I never see anyone talk about is a Monopoly-like game that has Mario and Dragon Quest characters in it.
Someone mentioned that. What's it called?
Would be me. Fortune Street.
Fortune Street. Was it, I feel like someone who was on the channel mentioned it, or was it you mentioned it in chat?
It was probably me. I was probably me.
Because
I admit, Fortune Street. Whichever direction. Yeah, chat's this way. Probably down here. Yeah.
No, I'm almost positive that someone that I had on the stream prior had also mentioned that before, because I was like, oh, I hadn't heard of that one. Paul, was it you when you were on a few weeks ago? Yeah, I just remember someone mentioned Fortune Street. I'm like, I've never heard of that before.
No, it's a super fun one. Fortune Street is like if you took Monopoly on cocaine with a stock market and added Mario and Dragon Quest characters.
Yeah, that's so you got that on here. I'd have to take a look at that because that definitely sounds interesting.
And that one is a full couch co-op. I got my buddy who did a cocktail intermission for it. Like the two of us each did a cocktail intermission for it, and we published that as part of that whole thing. That one I'm very proud of because I actually went in on the editing on it. If you guys enjoy that kind of stuff, that one is a very fun one for me. And I hope the people that want to watch that one, that's a fun one for you guys because it's very much just like it's Monopoly. Like it's definitely a game of screw your buddy.
Yeah, like screw your buddy games like friendship enders like Mario Party.
Yeah, Mario Party, Monopoly, Risk, you name it. I love those kinds of games. I love Monopoly likes, and he's a big fan of them too. He's got a copy of Dokapon Kingdom. It actually just recently got re-released on the Switch. Dokapon Kingdom got a full remaster on the Switch. It's available now. It's like Monopoly meets an RPG. So you actually walk around, like, get equipment, kill monsters, get gold, all that stuff. But it has the same kind of board game style of like Monopoly that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one either. Okay, Paul said that wasn't him.
There's a few others out there that are I just enjoy Monopoly. It was not banned in our household, despite how much we hate each other for it after we play it.
It's like, it's 3 a.m, Grandma, you win.
No, I have to destroy your soul.
Where'd you get that pink 50, Grandpa? Grandpa's a cheater. Old reference to us.
We always did house rules and handed out 2 properties at the start of the game to everybody just to make it faster, so we wouldn't have to suffer longer.
I think the last time I played a full game of Monopoly, I was like 10, and we were on vacation, and this game literally went on for 3 days, and I don't remember if it ever even ended or we just gave up on it. That's why I don't think I've ever played Monopoly since.
Mama didn't raise no quitter. Mama didn't raise no quitter. That game would go on for another 2 days.
So yeah, I don't think I've played since.
Games that should be banned between friends: Monopoly, Risk, Diplomacy, and Settlers of Catan.
Settlers of Catan is my favorite. I love that. I will play that at the drop of a hat.
I've only played it like twice, but a big respect, because I see how complex it can get with the strategies. But there was a saying that went around between some of my friends: friends don't let friends play Talisman.
I don't know that game.
It's that one's on Steam. They actually ported that board game, but the user interface is just like god awful, and it's a weird game. I've played it before, and it's just like you control your characters, but then you like each take turns controlling death, and you'll roll to move death, and if he lands on a character, they die, drop all their stuff, and go back to start. And it's like,
okay, that definitely sounds a lot like the robber in Catan. Friends don't really play,
except they actually just die.
Ticket to Ride. Why? I love Ticket to Ride. I've never had any I don't think I've ever had any big argument blow-ups on Ticket to Ride. I love that game.
I can't say I've played it. The only thing that comes to mind when I hear Ticket to Ride is the Beatles.
Okay, not a big fan of the Beatles. So, do they have I'm assuming they have a song called Ticket to Ride.
She's got a ticket to ride. She's got a ticket to ride. You never heard that song? Come on, you gotta know that one.
Not a fan of the Beatles, so no, I do not know that one.
Oh, what a shame. Paul, you're doing him wrong. You got to get his education on.
Paul, yeah. Paul, do you like to... Oh, that'd be funny. Paul comes back. He's like, I don't like the Beatles either.
All right.
I don't know if he does.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I hope that doesn't copyright strike you for my bad singing.
Wouldn't that count as like people cover music all the time? I would think that would be fair.
But YouTube's algorithms don't care.
Well, if I get my first copyright strike, I'll know who to blame.
Yep, you can blame me.
So looking at your channel here, one thing that I see that someone recommended to me a while back, I've got on my wish list in case it ever goes on sale on Xbox, but I don't know much about it. Shadow Man. It looks like you were playing that not too long ago.
I've played through quite a bit of it. It's intense. It's not that it's like particularly difficult. It's dark and gothic and steeped in a lot of like voodoo mythology, but it is very winding, and it kind of requires a little bit of backseating. But once you understand how the game is kind of like worked, it's a lot of fun to play. It's just really maddening because the whole game is just a big maze. And if you're like, here's for reference. the first major collectibles are the Dark Souls. And only about half of players have the achievement for collecting the first of 120 Dark Souls. I want to say it's 120.
Okay.
Only about, no, it's like 2/3. It's like, yeah, it's like 2/3 or a half. It's ridiculous. Like the game, it's not easy. But once you get into it, it's a lot of fun to just explore Deadside and everything. Like it's crazy how few players actually keep getting into it.
Okay. The reason why someone said I might like it is, and you'll have to tell me how accurate this is. They said plays a lot like a 3D Metroidvania, which Metroidvania is my genre of choice. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, there's a lot of Metroidvania-esque style stuff. It's actually kind of the bread and butter because you have to collect so many of the Dark Souls in order to increase your power level, which allows you to open gates that unlock new areas and new items so you can collect more Dark Souls so you can repeat the process. Okay. But it's got a lot. It's an M-rated game. It's got a lot of gruesome
he's
imagery.
Holding a skull in his hand on the cover, so that makes sense.
No, well, that mask of bone is stitched into his ribcage.
Well, that too, but I meant the one that he's actually holding in his hand. But yeah, he's got something on his chest too. So
it was one of the few Nintendo 64 games that had a lot of foul language.
So it also had voiced dialogue. Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
I mentioned it on one of my previous streams. There's not a lot of N64 games that actually had voiced dialogue.
Yeah, it's got fully voiced cutscenes.
Okay, yeah, it's on my wish list, but on Xbox, but it's never been on sale. So, but it did only come out at the beginning of last year on Xbox. That is.
Yeah, look for it on Steam if you can. It's going to be, that one's going to give you mouse and keyboard support, controller support, and a lot more like graphical options if your computer can handle it, which it should. It was made by Night Dive, who actually recently also released the Quake 2 remaster.
Cool. Yeah, that just came out like a week
ago.
So
you know that they've got a lot of competence involved in that team, and the remaster for Shadow Man has a lot of cut content. They had a whole new boss and an entire area that was cut from the original game, and new enemies. There's a new difficulty that's got enemies that have new attacks and new patterns. There's a lot of stuff that was cut from the game. There's tons of secrets and tons of stuff in there. If it's something that interests you, I recommend it, but definitely look for a little bit of help early on to kind of get used to how the game is structured, because it can be a lot to overcome at first. When I first started playing, I was just like, where am I going? I had so many words. I was just like, I can't say those on TV.
Okay, yeah, I understand where you're coming from with that, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves in gaming is when you just don't know where you're supposed to go. So.
Yeah, and there's a couple of hints that they're not really explained, but a little bit of backseating takes you a very long way. Once you start to understand how the game is structured and what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to go, when you can start to decipher that yourself, game is super fun.
Excellent.
Like, imagine just getting incredibly lost with Super Metroid.
Yes.
Right? And then when you start finally, like, you have that light bulb that turns on, you're just like, oh, I need to go this way to the sunken ship. And then, like, you look at your map, like, where have I not been? And you just start looking at that, and you start recognizing this is where I need to go.
Yeah, and despite it being, originally an N64 game, it's at least on True Achievements here, where I'm, look at all my Xbox related stuff. It's like a 4.6 rating out of 5, so it's pretty highly rated. So excellent.
I feel like sometimes those kinds of niche titles their ratings are a bit inflated by the fans that seek those things out, and they seek them and give them really good ratings because they're fans.
Could be.
Which I think it's a good game. It's not the best game ever. Certainly not Final Fantasy VIII.
Is that not being a Final Fantasy person?
That's a joke. Final Fantasy VIII is one of my
Okay.
favorites, but it is not one of the best Final Fantasy games
Because
of all time.
when I hear people talk about their favorite Final Fantasy games, I do hear a lot of times it's a toss up between 7 and 8. At least I think that's what I've heard. Is 8 generally not a well-regarded game then?
It's divisive. Okay. Final Fantasy VIII was weird with the way the customization system was working, and the story was a bit hit and miss with some people. Technically speaking, the music was fantastic. The graphics were better. The cutscenes were better. And if you ask me, Triple Triad or bust. Triple Triad is probably one of the best mini games that they've ever had in Final Fantasy.
I do know about it. I don't know how to play it, but I've heard of it.
I will fight you to the death for that. It's just that card game is just very competent. They brought it back in Final Fantasy 14. It had to have been good, but the junction and draw system is awkward, and it's not very well explained that the enemies level up with you.
And we're talking about 8,
so
right?
as you, yeah, in 8 the monsters level up as you do. So if you power grind up to level 99. You're screwed. You're gonna have a really bad time. Those monsters will be level 99 with you as soon as you walk out. I know
I've seen videos before of like games where you screwed yourself unintentionally, and I know I've heard games that have done that where you power level, but then your enemies are super high level as well, and you basically screwed yourself. Yeah. I bet you it's probably Final Fantasy VIII that they were talking about in that list.
That is that's probable. Like, you can still do it, but the enemy health, especially certain bosses, their health just explodes as their level goes up. It is borderline impossible to beat a level 99 Omega weapon. The super boss in Final Fantasy VIII is borderline impossible. All of the strategies strictly say you keep yourself as low level as possible, and then power level one character exactly, and just spam them with heroes, holy wars, aura, and then just use their limit breaks forever. You stack them with stats until they're maxed. They're the only max level character. You give them all the best stuff and stack them with status buffs, and then you just go to town and slap him upside the head until he dies. That's it, because the level is just based on the average level of your party. So if you've got everyone minimum level, and then Squall's level 99, Omega's only going to be like level 20. He's not going to have any health at all.
Nice.
It's just, yeah. That's just the way that game works. That they tried something different, and the leveling is just weird. Final Fantasy X tried something else a little different too with the leveling, because leveling up in 10 doesn't really increase your stats. You have to go to the sphere grid to level up your stats. So if you don't level up the sphere grid, then none of that matters. All that grinding just gives you more movement space across the sphere grid to put spheres in. The actual stats come from the sphere grid itself, which is, I think, a good way of doing it. I think 10 was fantastic.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think I've heard much about 10 one way or the other. Although I think the one thing I know about 10 is the awkward laugh scene. Is that from 10?
Yeah, that's Tidus and Yuna doing the awkward laugh scene. And that one is a bit misunderstood by some people because of the context. The context gets a little bit lost when all you hear is just the
seagull laugh.
Them just doing an awkward laugh. The whole point behind the context is actually really, really dour. It puts a real damper on the mood when you look at it, because they are marching to their death. They are on their way to fight the final fight, and they don't think that they're going to make it back. So they're kind of just having a sweet moment between the two of them when they're sitting there saying, let's just stop and have a laugh. So they just start doing this awkward laugh into the distance, and everyone is sitting there staring at them like, what are you guys doing? What's going on? I don't understand.
Okay.
It's just, that's the whole point. And it's a really sweet dour sentiment about, you know, the understanding that we're going to die. We may not make it out alive. And it's a really sweet scene. And a lot of people are just like, I don't understand. Why are they laughing? What is this bad voice acting?
Yeah, I don't know anything about the context. I've just seen the clips of them laughing and people making fun of it. So interesting to hear like the actual context of why.
I love the story on that one. And the gameplay is really good for a turn-based system that takes into account how fast your actions are and lets you readjust your characters and all this stuff. It's really cool. Oh yeah, no, DJ's got it. Yuna was on her way to die because she thought there's no other way.
Okay.
I have to die, and Tidus is trying to cheer her up. It's for the people that haven't played it and don't want the spoilers, that's as far as I go on it. They're marching to their death.
Okay.
That's it. It is a scene at the very end of the game, right before the final the descent into the final dungeon, and that's as far as I go on that.
And going back a little bit, Qthon says the rate why you don't let friends play Ticket to Ride. When you get to the very end, you have to two more trains to win, and everyone starts blocking each other. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, I will murder you in Minecraft.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I get those moments in Fortune Street too, when I have a big district with all of my properties and you place like 300 stock in my district, and then I'm just like, well, I can't improve my properties because the stock value will go up, and then you'll just make like 10,000 gold. And it's like, we need to have a chat here. You talk about, yeah, I love those kinds of games.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was fantastic with that game. 100%.
Not favorite, but a good game, and the Sphere Grid is good. Cool. Yeah, I don't have any personal experience myself, so I'll take your word for it. So what? We're coming up on an hour and a half here already. What you got? Anything that you're working on, or you got any streaming that you're planning on doing coming up here?
For the most part, the streaming that I do and I believe the YouTube channel, all of my YouTube videos have the Twitch link in them. So any of people that want to see those descriptions have the the Twitch link and my Twitter account where I post regular links when I do go to stream. I can only stream really Mondays and Tuesdays right now because those are the only days that I get off of work. But when I do, I usually like to go for a few hours, 4 to 6. I do all kinds of stuff. And right now I'm trying to balance out not just doing Sonic. I like to do a lot of multiplayer stuff. So anyone that likes to play multiplayer stuff, the big ones that we have are Starship Troopers Extermination, which is in early access right now.
Okay, because I know there a lot of people started streaming that probably about like a month ago. I thought it's because it was released, so it's still in early access then.
Yeah, they started doing that 2 months ago because it first released on early access. They're still actively updating. It even recently got a Horde mode update, and they're working on new maps. The loadout system just got a big revamp. The whole thing is pretty fantastic. I actually kind of like it.
Cool.
But it's Starship Troopers Extermination, Left 4 Dead 2, Borderlands 2. Those are the 3 big ones we cycle through. Every once in a while, I'll play some card games like Across the Obelisk with friends. I'll play a couple of other couch co-op games, like with my roommate or with my bartender buddy, the basement bartender, as we call him. If you see any of the drinking couch videos, you'll understand, especially the cocktail intermissions. He wrote all the jokes for his stuff all himself. He wrote his own script for that, and I was super happy with it. So we just ran with it, and that's just become the gag. He's the bartender that lives in my basement.
Okay, I'll definitely have to go check that out.
Those are the cocktail intermissions are all super short, 2 to 3 minutes apiece. And those are valid drinks. You get your hands on the ingredients, 100%. They're perfectly drinkable. They even have the drink recipes in the description.
Cool. So yeah, he'll post it, and you can go as he says it in his own words. Come watch him be bad at video games.
Yeah, absolutely. If you come in, the house rules. Backseating is not recommended. Backseating is mandatory.
Not recommended, but mandatory.
Yeah, if you see me screwing something up, be like, hey, jackass, you need to go to the left. I just want to have fun, and it's not fun to watch sometimes it's fun to watch someone flounder around aimlessly for hours at a time. But if you see me doing something and you're like, this is boring, hey dude, go to the left over here so you can actually beat the game. Like, okay. If I ask for no spoilers, I'll make sure to like have a hard notice, like no spoilers. This is blind. I don't want this. Like, I don't care. I'm far past that. If people want to spoil it, okay. I would be more respectful to the people that are in chat rather than the people that are actually on screen. Because this dumb don't know dumb about games. Yeah. Yeah. The difference is that like DSP blames the lag, the internet, the other players cheating, whatever. I'm just bad at games. I just play games for fun. I don't want to be a detractor or anything like that. If I make a mistake, I make a mistake. If it's actually lag or a bug and I just fall through the floor, you'll probably see it and be like, why'd you fall through the floor? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, you're a few hours ahead of me, so sometimes it can be a little tough to match up schedules. But if I'm able to hop into some of your streams, I will definitely try. But I know a lot of people are on the East Coast, so
and I'm usually
streaming when I'm still at work.
And I'm usually going until the wee hours of the morning, my time anyway. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm finishing up a stream about this time on a Monday or a Tuesday. I wouldn't be surprised.
I should be able to hop into some of those sometimes. Yeah. So cool.
But I like to do retro stuff, indie stuff. I've got several consoles that I cycle between. I'm going to be going to my Wii and Wii U games next, but I also pull up stuff on Steam, any random things that just kind of sound fun for the moment. So if anyone's got suggestions for things that I can get my hands on, I'll absolutely take all that into consideration. I'll play quite a bit of stuff, and I'm always looking for friends to play games with, especially if we can get a lot of people for Left 4 Dead 2. If we can get a full 8 stack and start playing some actual versus mode, I am down. Some versus mode stuff would be fantastic. Yeah. Especially like 4v4 infected versus humans. I'm game. Hit me up anytime.
Yeah, when James and Kay were on, they brought up Left 4 Dead, because I think he was saying that's one of his favorites as well. So you could probably rope him into that.
I bet, especially if we get him on a team. I'm sure he'd love to. I'm sure he'd love to play a smoker or a tank.
So shoot, I was going to say something just a minute ago, and now I forgot what it was. Oh, sorry. That's what it was. I remembered. So given that you are a huge fan of Sonic, he was in the chat earlier. I haven't seen him chat in a while, so I don't think he's still there. But if you ever wanted to talk about Sonic, my buddy Jock Nerdy, he's a big Sonic fan. So if you ever have,
yeah, I'm currently trying to get my hands on a physical copy of Sonic 06.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that, because that's the black sheep of the Sonic family, right?
That's one of them, yeah. That was not good, TM. It's derided as one of the worst in the series. The voice acting is not great. The gameplay is buggy and weird in a lot of ways. The story doesn't make sense. There's a lot of really weird decisions they decided to make, but the development cycle was just fraught with so many problems. Like, they released a demo for it, which was like part of the first level, but then they released another demo for it later, which was the same level. As like, what are you guys? What's going on here? I don't understand. No, the whole development cycle was just not good for them. And there were a lot of things they had to cut. There were a lot of problems they had to deal with. Turnover. When games get to this point of like development hell, where they're going for 3, 4, 6, 11 years, or like what is it? What did Duke Nukem Forever go for? Like 16 years?
I think it was 15,
11 years?
if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
like 15 or 16 years. Like when you get to that point, you start seeing just ridiculous levels of turnover, people that weren't involved in the early process and decision making and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, like this guy says Sonic 06 is so bad, modders are still trying to fix the game.
Playable to this day.
I've seen a couple of those mods and they look good, but like there's a snowboarding level. You could literally just like turn yourself around and start snowboarding back up the hill. There's like no physics in place to stop you from snowboarding up. It's like, why? And the very infamous like bad boss fights. What is it? Crisis City? One of the worst levels in all of Sonic history is just bad. The whole thing is full of really terrible decisions. They cut themselves short on stuff, and I am excited to play it because I am a masochist.
I was gonna say, so you're not making this game sound pretty good, and you're trying to find a physical copy of it.
Because I'm considering myself a big fan of Sonic 06. Where would I be if I never played it?
All right, we'll have to see you flagellate yourself with Sonic 06 at some point.
I'm going to need a lot more bourbon and a lot more rum.
Make sure those bottles are full.
Well, and I just bought that Japanese whiskey today, but I'm a little short. You do want to try it too?
Canadian wants to put himself through it as well. All right.
Maybe you can just. I mean, there are some people that are sitting there saying that Sonic 06 was the game that broke up the Game Grumps. Like they started that game with JonTron, and they never completed it, and then JonTron was suddenly gone. Take that for what you will.
So yeah, maybe they never did a health check on him, and we need to do that after you play it to make sure you're all right.
I mean, realistically, I'm 6 years former Navy. I was a nuclear technician, and I'm 9 years in the culinary industry. I think I can take a little bit of dumb punishment, but this might be my limit. We'll see.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, what I've got coming up next is just next week's open mic. Next Thursday night. It will be earlier. It'll be at I think 8 o'clock Pacific time, a little earlier in the evening. And I am having Dude 1286 on. And I know he's a bit of an Xbox guy as well, and it sounds like he's got quite an Xbox 360 collection. So we'll probably be talking about that. So.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of hoping my Xbox needed repairs, my classic one. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get that back soon because I've been really itching to get back to one of the really bad meme games that I've been playing lately too. I started the series on it. It's a game called Metal Dungeon, and trust me, it's bad. It's really bad. It's this weird like auto battler RPG, and the overmap that you have to travel has tank controls.
Tank
you move
controls are the worst.
You move faster than the camera. So when you stop moving, the camera has to take a second to catch up to you. And the game is just obscenely punishing for no reason. Like if you die, if all your characters die, it's not game over. Your characters actually start to like they die, and you have to roll new characters to go fetch them from the dungeon they died in.
Okay.
Like you have to literally, and you can't fetch them all at the same time either. You don't have a party of 5. So you have to go into the dungeon with 4 or less, then find them and go get them out of the morgue and bring them back to the surface. And then keep doing that until you get them all back.
Sounds very tedious.
Yeah, if that happened to me, I would just restart the system to my old save. I'm not messing with that.
So, hello, Whiskey Jack. Yeah, we thanks for joining us. Although we are just about done here, but thanks for stopping by. And let's see here, the winter.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut it short. I know you go a little bit longer usually,
No
but
worries.
my dumb ass needs to get some sleep
pretty
before
late
work.
for you, so I'll finish up here. John Tron left the channel because he was neglecting his own channel in favor of it, and he wanted to focus on that. He also wanted to live closer to his girlfriend or something like that. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Oh, is that the confirmed reason? Because I know that the Aaron really Ego Raptor just didn't want to talk about it. Anytime it got brought up by anyone, anytime, they just refused to talk about it because it was drama. And
Okay. I know John Tron's face, but I don't know almost anything about him. And basically, the only thing I ever see him is the
memes.
What? So I don't really know much about John Tron, but
John Tron's a pretty funny guy too. I like his stuff, but he like Winter Prince says, he had his own channel. He wanted to focus on his own stuff. So
okay. And Winter Prince says, thinking of streaming Zelda or the Oracle games or Symphony of the Night. Cool. I had Oracle of Ages, so I played that. I never played Oracle of Seasons, but Symphony of the Night is excellent game, and one, as I said, I'm a big fan of Metroidvanias, and that was one of the games that helped start off the genre, really. So before the release of Mina the
Hollower is the next game by Yacht Club Games, the makers of Shovel Knight. Yeah, it's a very Zelda and Symphony of the Night inspired kind of game. It's more. It almost looks very close to the Game Boy, the Game Boy Zelda games, Link's Awakening and the Oracle's games. It actually plays pretty similar to that too.
Cool.
So, like, if you're interested, if you're a fan of those kinds of games, definitely check that one out.
Okay.
And speaking of the Zelda Oracle games, I believe your guest next week, dude, 1286 has been on a streak of trying to 100% both of those games.
Yeah, I think I remember him saying something about it in Discord or something, that he's been streaming the Oracle.
Yeah, he's actually trying to 100% it per the retro achievements guide, which is he's on day 9. Well, day 9 was today, so he's been going hard at it.
Awesome.
And in his own words, based exclusively on the way that they word the achievements for those two games. In order to properly 100% them, you have to 100% one of them completely, and then go back and do the next one completely, and then do them both again.
Yeah, they've got stuff that ties into each other in order to get the full real ending, so that makes sense.
But he said it's like the rings. Like, you have to get all of the rings organically in one game, and then you have to get all the rings organically in the other game without having the passwords.
Okay.
To properly 100% it per the retro achievements guide.
Okay. Well,
so that's
I'll
why.
Probably definitely be talking about that next week as well then. So cool.
Yeah, he is to true 100% the game, like Keo was saying, you have to have the codes from one game and to get to the other. I guarantee you he's going to use the code from one to 100% one of the other one, and then go back and do it again.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to 100% both games at the exact same time with the codes that he's going to get from the other.
Yeah. So.
And that's just the way he explained it.
Cool. So, all right. Yeah. Well, I'll be asking about that next week. So if you want to hear more about that, join us next Thursday. So I'm glad you were able to come on and chat gaming stuff with me. It was fun.
I appreciate that. If you'd like me on later, another time, maybe we can have a bit more of a topic focused stream. I love doing the introductions and stuff, and it's a lot of fun to come in on chat and interact with chat and everybody, all these cool people over here. Absolutely. If you want me to come on another time, and I can swing it, maybe an earlier time frame would work a little better on a
Yeah,
Thursday.
definitely.
Well, actually,
Wouldn't
yeah, we'll have to talk about it based on my work schedule, because work schedules are going to get
it wouldn't
weird.
necessarily have to be on
But
a Thursday. That's just usually when I do it. But I could depending on the week, I can do other nights as well. So yeah,
yeah, whatever works, we'll make it work. Absolutely, and I'll be happy to do it, and even invite this buddy right here. We'll see if I can get something going. I will have to work on camera because this thing is not working. I'm gonna have to get something better. This focus just keeps phasing in and
has
out.
been a bit wonky. So, but yeah, that was fun, and yeah, I've enjoyed having all these guests on and kind of getting to know you guys. And you know, I like to think that I'm making friends. So
I like making friends. I like talking trash.
so. Well, thank you for all of you who joined us in chat. And like I said, I'll put his channel in the description as well at the end of the video. So thank you for joining us in chat. And I hope to catch you in chat next week. And in the meantime, game on.
Have a go.